In this world, dragons are magical and powerful creatures with ancient lineage, true predators, and natural enemies of humans. Because of this, there are dragon hunters who make a living by accepting missions to kill these creatures and protect the cities. There are two ways to do this. The first is by freezing the dragon's blood with silver, an aura that emanates from silver weapons. And the second way is simply letting the sunlight burn their bodies. The anime begins by showing Ragnar, one of these dragon hunters, emanating silver from his own hand to freeze several dragons with just one touch. Despite having this immense power, he desired to be even more powerful, showing that he was never satisfied. However, all of this was just a vision of the boy who was in the middle of training, trying to face a dragon with little result, which was a terrible time to have visions. Realizing that Ragnar was having difficulties, his partner Leonica steps between him and the creature, easily finishing off the dragon. Leo tells him that he needs to stay more focused during battles as she does, and Ragnar thanks her for her help by patting the girl on the head. Next, they burn the dragon's body and freeze its heart with silver, completing the job. When they return to the city, we see that Leo is considered a prodigy for having killed dozens of dragons alone, being the best hunter in the city of Runabera, responsible for killing most of the creatures there despite being only 12 years old. Everyone envied and admired the girl, giving her various nicknames, but for Ragnar, her only loyal partner, she is a hero whom he is sure will become even stronger as she grows up, and he takes several photos of his little heroine to document her growth. However, unlike Leo, Ragnar had no ability to hunt dragons, which led some people to mock their partnership, like Sykes Charluk, ranked as the second best dragon hunter, with the highest number of creature kills in the city after Leo, which disappoints him because the girl didn't even know who he was. Sykes tells Ragnar that he is only slowing down his partner, as his abilities are well below average, calling him nothing more than a burden. However, Leo immediately draws her sword, pointing it at Sykes to defend Ragnar, leaving the hunter speechless. Leo asks him what he seeks with his silver sword and how much he desires to achieve what he wants, explaining that she seeks to have maximum strength to become stronger than anyone or anything. Because of this goal, she became a dragon hunter, as dragons are the most powerful creatures of all, and to prove that she is indeed the strongest, she wishes to face even the feared dragon god. She then asks all the people in the area if anyone wants to join her, promising to share everything they desire, such as wealth, status, and even glory. However, everyone remains silent and only Ragnar speaks up, swearing to follow her as long as he can. Although she just delivered a speech worthy of the #1 dragon hunter, showing experience and determination when speaking with her partner, it becomes clear that she is still a 12-year-old girl. Even though she is a prodigy, there are still simple things that every child has, like wanting to sleep without taking a bath. At night, Ragnar puts her to bed and lets her sleep peacefully while he goes to train, as his greatest desire is to become at least somewhat useful to Leo before he dies. He knows that, as he has no talent for hunting, he will never come close to her level, and he is certain that he will die at the hands of a dragon, but he wants to help her in some way before his departure. However, at that moment, he sees the figure of a man who tells him that he will never fulfill his wish of being useful to Leo because he will lose her before that happens. Then Ragnar starts having visions of the city in flames, being attacked by multiple dragons, and shortly after, he sees his worst nightmare, the girl being killed by one of the creatures. Seconds later, he wakes up, realizing that he had fallen asleep while training, but is still scared by the fact that he can still hear the voice of the strange man in his head, saying that her time was near. The next day, Ragnar goes shopping to cook whatever Leo wants, fulfilling all her wishes, making the girl very happy. Later, after eating the meat she craved, she falls asleep and Ragnar puts her to bed as he did the previous night. In the morning, the two go to the guild hall where dragon hunters accept their missions. However, they are surprised to find that there is not a single task available that day because the city has not had many dragon attacks recently. So Leo and Ragnar go outside for some fresh air, and Ragnar notices that her hair has grown. He decides to take advantage of the free time to cut her hair, but while doing so, he remembers the nightmare he had about her. To make matters worse, that night he has the same horrible dream again and decides to spend the early hours of the morning training. However, even there he cannot find peace as he continues to hear the voice of the strange man telling him that you will lose Leo soon. Later, at a bar in the city, the dragon hunters gather to discuss the strange fact that winged creatures have been disappearing from the city for a few days. One of them mentions that the dragons were migrating eastward towards a city called Donapieru, a place that has not been attacked by them in a decade. Leo overhears the conversation and once again acts like a 12-year-old, mentioning that the city Donapieru reminds her of a famous confectionery shop called the Silver Hen, and suggests that if they go there on a mission to hunt dragons, they should take the opportunity to visit the shop and try its food. Meanwhile, Ragnar still cannot shake the dream from his mind, fearing the words of the strange man and wondering if he is a vision or a ghost, feeling that he is neither of those options. Leo notices his partner's concern and asks him why he has been working so hard lately. He replies that it is an attempt to help her in some way. Recognizing his concern for her, Leo recalls the day they first met, saying that when she saw him for the first time, she thought they had the same potential and the same level of strength. This surprises him because, apart from having no natural talent, he was still getting beaten up when they first met. However, although she admits that Ragna indeed has no natural ability to be a dragon hunter as she does, she says that her instincts tell her that he will become very strong somehow, though she cannot say when or why. Therefore, she promises to protect Ragna until that day comes. In a flashback, we learn about Ragna's past. His parents were eaten by dragons when he was only 3 years old, leaving him an orphan. Some relatives took him in, but shortly afterward, they too were killed by dragons, leaving Ragna with no one. That's when he was bought by a wealthy man, but some dragons burned down his property, leading him to believe that he was cursed. The rich man who bought him and his friends also blamed the boy's bad luck for what happened. They beat Ragna, accusing him of working for the dragons because wherever he went, dragons appeared shortly afterward, leaving only him as the survivor. Just when he had lost all hope of finding peace, he met Leo, who invited him to become a dragon hunter alongside her. She explained that having a special connection with these creatures was not a bad thing when you were hunting them, especially if you survived the fight. So she decided that he would be her partner that day, even though he was worried about bringing his bad luck to her and making Leo end up like all the others who had been close to him. However, she told him that only the weak died for her and the strongest, stronger than the dragons, survived. Since she was very strong, he had nothing to worry about. To prove his potential to Ragna, she took him on one of her hunts, and when they found a dragon, the boy thought it was the end for both of them. However, Leo defeated the dragon with a single blow, proving that she was indeed very strong. This made Ragna believe that it was safe to be near her because, unlike the others, he could not imagine a way for someone like her to die before him. From that day on, they became inseparable partners, with Ragna thinking that he was no longer cursed by being alongside a hero like Leo, wishing to stay by her side until he eventually died at the hands of a dragon. That's why the nightmare of losing her that he couldn't stop having was so terrifying, as she meant everything to him. The next day at the guild hall, all the dragon hunters gather when they learn that the city of Piero has been attacked and destroyed by the dragons. Since they hadn't suffered any dragon attacks for a decade, they thought they didn't need hunters to protect them. There, Leo asks Sykes what happened, and he explains that he heard that a horde of dragons attacked the city of Piero, and that's why the kingdom issued an emergency mission for all hunters to go after these dragons. This makes Ragna panic because he knows that this means his vision is about to come true. But when he tries to warn Leo about the impending danger, they hear a noise, and when they leave the guild hall, they see the city in flames and the dragon horde attacking, making Ragna recognize the similarity of the scene to his dream. Desperate, he goes after her, while the dragons attack the people who try to resist the attack in vain. Then the men see a person emerging from the flames and go to check if they are injured. However, the blood-covered man kills them all with blades made of his own blood, revealing that he too is one of the dragons, a superior one. This terrifies everyone, including the hunter Sykes, who is the second best among them. Ragna also sees the creature in the distance and immediately realizes that those blades are exactly what will cause Leo's death. So when the dragon is about to attack Sykes, Ragna jumps in his direction, determined to do everything to save Leo's life. However, his sword breaks upon hitting the dragon, and the creature then sets everything on fire. Leo sees that Ragna is in danger and rushes to the location worried. Luckily, the boy falls safely into the river. She then asks Skiles to leave the superior dragon with her and go to Ragna. Next, she goes to the creature, swearing to avenge it for hurting Ragna. Meanwhile, the boy continues sinking deeper into the river, reminiscing about his dream. After losing Leo, he sinks into his quest for revenge, aiming to hunt all the dragons to extinction, training to his utmost potential, becoming incredibly strong, even though he feels it's never enough. He also makes new partners, but they all die, leaving him as the lone survivor, leading a life full of losses despite his efforts, reaching a point where he achieves the impossible. Then Ragna manages to get out of the river, encountering the man from his vision again. He finally realizes that this is his future self, and that maybe deep down he only wanted a chance to die but somehow always managed to survive. The man reveals that he is the future Ragna who caused his visions and expresses disgust for his past self. Despite idolizing Leo as a heroine and professing his love for her, he didn't become the strongest being in the world to keep her safe. He gained the strength he needed only after losing her. But then, even though he was strong enough to face any dragon and protect anyone, he had already lost everything, with nothing left to save, unable to see any reason for all that power. Ragna asks him to transfer all this strength to him because it's the right moment to save Leo and the others in the city. His future self agrees, hitting Ragna with his sword, causing Ragna to scream in pain, startling Skiles, who was keeping him safe during his visions. At that moment, his past and future selves merge into one, with Ragnar receiving all their memories and powers, understanding everything that happened, and the pain of becoming strong only after losing Leo. However, both Ragnars knew that this union came at a price, and they were both willing to pay it. Meanwhile, Leo is already tired of fighting the superior dragon, and he recognizes her strength. She also asks if he is the famous god of their kind, which annoys the creature. He says he doesn't come close to the grandeur of their god, and that she shouldn't even compare the two. After a long time of battling, he finally introduces himself as Grinwelt, explaining that he is the 10th seat of the Blood of the Wing, the most humble among all the superior dragons. This surprises Leo, as he has proven to be a formidable opponent. Grinwelt decides to have some fun and reveals why the city and the kingdom are marked for destruction. He tells her that their god has always loved the exotic dishes created by humans, especially the famous bakery in the city of Donapiero. However, even though he was a loyal customer, the bakery was robbed and went bankrupt. With the shop's bankruptcy, which was the reason the Wingblood dragons didn't attack the city, their god became extremely sad and angry. As a result, he ordered all of his lineage to destroy the entire kingdom. Grinwelt tells Leo all this to prove that the fate of the human nation was in the hands and whims of the god of the dragons. He insists that the battle between them and the hunters was never real because humans only survived when the dragons didn't take them seriously. He makes it clear that there was not a single human considered a threat to their species. After delivering the speech about how humans were completely insignificant compared to dragons, Grinwelt prepares to end the fight in Leo's life. However, at that moment, he senses a strange presence behind him, becoming frightened and even considering it might be an illusion. What he felt was the new power that Ragnar gained, making him incredibly strong and capable of freezing dragons with a simple touch of his hand, thanks to all the effort of his future self. Grinwelt remembers the memories of the adult Ragnar passing through his head. After losing Leo and spending 10 long years hunting dragons for revenge, desiring their extinction, he slowly became a part of his sword. Even though the fusion was painful, he continued to fight relentlessly. After 5 years, he had completely merged with his silver sword, making his own body a powerful weapon radiating silver. 3 years later, he developed a technique to increase the silver in his body. After another 4 years, he learned to control it at will. After a total of 10 years, he became a being far beyond human capacity, mastering his silver battle arts technique. All these years of training and techniques were now in the present Ragnar. Approaching Grinwelt, he senses a power similar to the one he felt around monarch dragons, those chosen by their god to lead dragon lineages. Despite feeling this supreme power from Ragnar, Grinwelt denies being afraid of a mere human and assumes his true form, enabling him to use his full potential. He starts another speech about how dragons are powerful and humans are weak and inferior. However, in a matter of seconds, Ragnar freezes Grinwelt completely and shatters him, leaving nothing of the supreme and chatty dragon. With everything finished, Ragnar finally comes to his senses, realizing he had saved Leo's life and changed his future of pain and suffering. He runs to her, barely believing what happened, and starts crying, relieved that he still has his partner by his side. As he cries as if the world were ending, she tries to reassure him, saying that everything will be okay and recognizing his hard work to become so strong. He says that someone else worked hard to achieve those results, someone who was no longer there despite Ragnar knowing how much he suffered and missed Leo. Meanwhile, somewhere in the sky, filled with gears for some reason, the future Ragnar meets a girl who tells him that even though he and his past self have accepted the price of their fusion, the past Ragnar won't live for much longer. She notices that in all those years she knew Ragnar, she had never seen him make such a sentimental expression as he was making at that moment. Even after all that time together, this was the first time she saw him without a somber look. However, what mattered now was that all their hopes of creating a world where no dragons existed were entirely in the hands of their past selves. On that day, the dragons attacked 7 cities in the Eastern Kingdom, and out of the 7, 6 were completely destroyed, including the capital. However, on that same day, the Dragon Reaper was born. After that, in Ragnar's city, the dragons mysteriously disappeared and they managed to put out the fire despite the numerous casualties and the destruction of half the city, including the inn where Ragnar and Leo lived. So the two were left without a place to sleep and had to take shelter in the home of the hunter Skiles, with the boy still in shock that he had truly prevented his nightmare from happening. When Skiles enters the room where the two are, Ragnar tells him that the best thing they can do is leave the city and head toward the nearby border because the dragon god demanded the kingdom's destruction, and the creatures treat his demands as law, so they won't give up on attacking the place. However, if they move away from their target, everyone could be safe. Skiles questions why Ragnar suddenly became intelligent and extremely strong as he had no talent before. He asks how Ragnar gained all that power to defeat Grinwelt so easily, but before he can answer, Ragnar falls asleep on his bed. Leo explains that even though he spent many nights training hard while she slept to achieve those results, all that strength was draining him and making him unstable. At that moment, Ragna starts calling for Leo, and she tries to reassure him that she's right by his side, but he continues to call her name. Suddenly, she and Skiles hear a noise and go to see what it is, leaving Ragna sleeping. Outside, they are startled to see that for some reason, the forest is attacking them. Leah rushes to the site of the attack, with the woman who was with Ragna from the future saying that their story is about to begin now that their paths will cross.